Hey, everybody, I'm Peter Velardi. I guess I'm a reformed senior executive turned entrepreneur seeking out opportunities, human connection, and lots of growth because the future is always brighter than the past. You can check me out more on the Jesse T Show, baby.
Peter, welcome to the Jesse T Show, brother.
Hey, Jesse, great to be here with you, man. As always, always great to chat with you and connect with your audience today.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this and just looking forward to doing life with you as we go here and there. We get to hang out and connect. And, a few weeks ago, we were having lunch during the day and reconnecting and talking about what's going on in our lives in the future. And we had some really cool conversation. And so I wanted to just expand on that conversation. I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into your story, a little bit deeper into the mind of Peter Velardi, all the great things you have going on. So if you could share with us a little color context on who you are and what you do today.
Yeah, be happy to. I guess I'll start with life because that's really what this is all about, and we can get into more on business. But I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and don't let that scare you that I'm going to take the next hour to build all of that. But
Yep.
that was kind of my Midwest route. So where I grew up till six, it was all about family, neighbors, people baking cakes and bringing things over. So that part of my life kind of locked in these Midwest values and what it really means to be a good human, and that was just so valuable to me. And then my dad was on this big upcoming track. He went to NYU night school. His grandmother made him wear a suit to go to an interview. So he got his first job while working nights sweeping floors at a company called Vanity Fair Mills, which was an intimate apparel company in New York. And so we transferred out there. And then second part of my life kind of grew up in Westport, Connecticut, which was at that point kind of this little upcoming farm town, bedroom community of New York. But that had massive influence in my life because that was like an explosion happening of entrepreneurs, successful investment bankers, executives. And so but my dad's story was the best part of it because he went from sweeping office floors to becoming the CEO of the company, and stayed with that company his entire career, 45 years. And he always referred to his career as being a career where he had his hands in ladies' underwear his entire career. So long story short, the Midwest values being witness to not just my dad's success, but also watching people become successful all around me in Westport, and immediately built this kind of instinct of how does that happen? How does somebody become successful? Some seem happy, some didn't.
Yep.
So I started pretty early in life with this kind of passion of solving for success and happiness. What causes it? And it manifested, Jesse, lots of ways. I mean, I used to fish a lot. I'm a big fisherman, and I used to fish for bluefish and striped bass on the Long Island Sound on these like rocky jetties. And behind me were these like insane houses, one of which with a helicopter pad, for example. And I recall being so curious about all of this that I would try to mingle with the owners of the homes. And one guy
Right.
was the head of I forgot the company. It was like Marketing Something of America, CEO, and he asked me to have a bite to eat with them. And I just interviewed this guy, and he told me, he laid wisdom on me that was insane about what it was going to take. And the best thing he said was, dude, the average overnight success is 20 plus years. And that's how long it took me to even have a chance to have what I had. So that was fascinating for me. Not that there wasn't. So my whole upbringing was great parents, great support system, success all around me, curiosity,
Yep.
not without lots of roadblocks. I mean, I had a speech problem at one point and got bullied. I was in a position where I played all these sports. And I was a great athlete, but I was small. I mean, soaking wet. I'm actually the same height and weight now as I was when I played football in high school.
Good for you.
At 5'8", 160 pounds,
Wow.
soaking wet. Right.
You're
So
probably a terror out there on the field, though, in high school.
I was. In fact, at one point, the coach took my dad aside and said, tell your son not to hit my players so hard they're going to hurt them. Because I was that guy. But there's a lot, to say that I overcame in high school. My first 2 years, I was kind of this high achieving, played 3 sports. I was in band, orchestra, AP courses. And then something happened about towards the end of my second year in high school where I got injured. I couldn't play sports. The whole world kind of collapsed.
Yep.
I
lost your identity a little bit.
Lost all of that like instantly because I was sick a lot. I had pneumonia, mono, fractured my back. All these things happened that led to me kind of having to turtle and pull back from who I was. And so from there, long story short, I went through a 2-year meltdown the last 2 years of my high school.
Wow. The best two for most people, the best 2 years of most people's career in high school is junior and senior year.
Yeah. And that was the best and worst in times. The best in times in the sense that my response to it, because I really didn't know how to deal with it, was to become a wild man. I bought a 62 MGA sports car. I got heavily into girls and
chasing girls, man.
Yeah. And I was a wild man. I stopped playing sports. I just partied, had fun. And it was a great 2 years in a lot of ways. I worked through all of it. I always had 3 jobs. Wow. So it wasn't that I didn't have my own stuff going on, but I was pretty lost. But showing that I wasn't.
Right. Keeping up appearances, but you weren't showing up for yourself.
No. And you know how when that happens in your life, you have periods of time when we all go through that as adults and as adolescents and kids. And, we all respond differently and you kind of know what's going on, right? But you're not quite sure what to do about it. So, from there, I got my act together. I always knew I wanted to be, a business person like my dad, but more entrepreneurial.
Yep.
Over time, I did get into a good school, Boston University. It was called SMG School of Management, but we called it SMG School of Money and Greed.
Nice, yeah.
So
because this was also during the time where you had Wall Street was really big and Gordon Gekko and Always Be Closing and all these profound Wall Street banky type movies, and you're coming up through the thick of it.
Totally, and that's exactly what was happening. The whole kind of wealth, Wall Street,
the 80s, man, the boom.
Yeah, the 80s was late 70s, early 80s, and everything was booming. And so I was kind of carving out where's my niche in all of that.
Yep.
And the best I could conclude was I should be a consultant from McKinsey. Somehow in my mind, I saw these McKinsey consultants making big bucks, go to a good college, get your MBA, get your PhD, and go on to kind of blow it out as a consultant and then enter and become a CEO of a Wall Street company. That's what was going through my mind.
Yep.
So I graduated from BU, paid for most of my education.
What were the jobs that you were working? You said you always had about 3 jobs. What kind of industry?
Yeah, I worked. So this was in Boston. So I worked I was an associate manager, which meant you folded lots of clothes.
Yeah.
For Filene's Basement.
I know Filene's.
Filene. So
were you on State Street, the big one?
Yes, the one right at Downtown Crossing.
I grew up in Boston, you know that. So this is taking me back to my roots. I shoplifted once at Filene's and got caught. I stole a pair of pants as a young kid, and I got caught, and I was like, I'll never steal again. It was a learning lesson.
I almost got let go because I used to tell all my friends all the sales on the Eyes Out shirts. They had they had these secret sales, and people come in and, as grab clothes off of the rack, try them on, sometimes walk out the store, and we had to make sure that stuff didn't happen. So
we had a buddy named John King, who's a buddy of mine to this day. He's a real estate agent in Boston, and John King, I think it was John, was working at one of these, and it may have been Square One Mall in Saugus, but he would always give us the hookup too, and he got in trouble too because all of us were trying to get stuff for pennies on the dollar.
That's exactly it. And it was a crazy crazy. I learned about everything at this store. I
Yeah.
learned about, I thought the world was men and women. I learned there's a lot that were between those two.
Yep.
I learned about a lot of things. I learned about business, working hard, what to do, what not to do, teamwork.
Yep.
I learned how to act urgently but patiently. It
Yep.
was a great job. But that was one. I worked at nights as a waiter, and I worked during the day there for the most part. I
Wow.
worked at a marketing research firm, making thousands of cold calls to do market research. So I always had 2 to 3 jobs while going to school, and that all looked good in the resume. But more importantly, I mean, all that stuff. I mean, was just invaluable. I look back to the stuff I did and how bad I was at it, but how much I learned when I did it.
It's so
So,
powerful for life, like sales, customer service, human to human interaction, dealing with people that are frustrated, learning how to empathize, learning how to relate to like the masses. This is something that sets people up for massive success because you've had these experiences that really lend to just showing up in the world day to day.
totally. And one specific example of that, I remember when I first got that Filene's job, the guy kind of set me up as being, he's the college smart guy who's going into business. He's the guy that's going to kind of lead you. So he set me up almost entirely the wrong way to say, don't do what they're doing. Don't fold the clothes. Don't do all that. You just check the reports, make sure everybody's doing their job, that kind of stuff. And I'll never remember, I won't ever forget. One time there's a whole group of people and I'm trying to get them to do something, and this one dude, this ripped dude, comes up to me and goes, "Dude, we've all been here twice as long as you. The only way you're going to get us to do anything is if you're sitting there arm in arm folding clothes with us."
Yep.
He goes, "You do that. Don't even ask us for anything until you start doing that." And I'm like, I can do that. That makes sense." So then that was my commitment for the next like 6 months, is to just do more. And I was the guy then that said yes to just about all the crappy shit work that had to be done.
Yep.
Then and only then was I able to influence anybody. And then
Yep.
I did, and it worked out for them, worked out for me. But so yeah, so that's what I did back then. When I graduated, I had planned to go get my MBA, my PhD, and go the McKinsey route, but I got this great job right out of college selling insurance for John Hancock.
They
Um,
got their hooks into you young.
yeah, and they got the hooks in, told a great story, great salesperson. Do this, you can do anything. You don't need your MBA, you don't need your PhD.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to save you tons of dough. If you still want it, we'll pay for it. And so I said, yeah, I'm thinking I can make some pretty good money doing that. And I could save up for my MBA, my PhD. So I said, okay, I'm in. And I loved it and I hated it. I
Yep.
loved what was building as the financial planning industry,
Mhm.
and wealth management was just starting to take off. It
Yep.
was like everything was wirehouses and trading,
Oh yeah.
and then it became like financial planning. Become a CFP,
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
holistic planning. It's stickier, it's better. So I looked at companies. So I was with Hancock for 2 years. They made me a trainer, and I did really, really
So you
well.
must have been doing well. Yeah. If you become a trainer,
Yeah,
you're teaching people how to sell. You must have been selling.
yeah, I did well, and I enjoyed all of that. I just didn't enjoy solution the fact that insurance to them was really, at that point in time anyway, really the only solution
Their bread and
to
butter.
all financial problems. So I said,
Yep.
there's got to be more to it, and that's how I got kind of hooked into financial planning. So I looked for companies that did it. A company called IDS, a sleepy Midwestern company, was just purchased by American Express in somewhere around 1984, January of 84. I became a financial advisor with them, did a lot of research, got a good job offer. And that was back in August of 84. And so I did that, and that began a 25-year career with what was IDS Financial Services, IDS American Express Financial Advisors, and then part of the team that spun off into Ameriprise Financial.
Wow.
First third, I was a career advisor. Second third, I'd call myself a middle manager executive. Last third, I was a senior guy. I was in charge of a distribution organization of 5,000 plus financial advisors. And that was a
Wow.
25-year run. And it kind of combined all of that I wanted at the time, Jesse.
Yep.
It was like, you had to have the mind of a social worker, or the heart of a social worker, and the mind of a capitalist, which is kind of what I always viewed myself to be.
Yep.
Always gravitated towards connection, great humans, great values from my upbringing. I was very grateful and fortunate to have two spectacular parents.
Yep.
My dad passed 5 years ago. My mom is
Wow.
she's just amazing. So I'm not one of those guys that had a rough childhood and had to overcome that. It
Yeah.
was almost the opposite. It was almost the pressure of, you've got a
Not
pretty good
screwing it
deck.
up.
Yeah, you got a pretty good deck of cards here, dude.
Yep.
Don't mess this up.
Yep.
And that pressure, which was still meaningful, but what drove me was more, how do I sift through all that and kind of find my true self, and determine, who the heck am I in all this,
Mhm.
and how do I find those gifts and channel it in a way that can make a difference. So 25 years with Ameriprise, great ride, but towards the end felt very corporate. There was margin compression. Leadership and working through leaders was a little bit less valued,
Yep. Yep.
and that was my thing. So I said, you know what? And I've always had my own businesses. From a lawn thing way back in Westport to Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, boxes that you go and sell door to door.
Oh yeah.
So I love that stuff, and I did well at it, and I got people to listen to me and buy stuff from me. So I said, okay, that's really what I want to do. So I retired from that world 15 years ago
Okay.
to kind of pursue and exercise my entrepreneurial muscles. And so the last 15 years have been just a joy. And the greatest advice I got at that point was, somebody saying to me, you've set goals your whole life. And I think I mentioned this at our lunch. And they said, don't set goals, dude. They said, now's the time to get in that boat, roll like hell, get stuff out of your way, but let the stronger current take you out to the
Yeah.
ocean.
Yep.
And just be open to what's possible. And the last 15 years have been magnificent. I've met so many cool people. I've been involved in probably 20 startups in different ways. Fast forward the clock, I've gotten 20 things down to 2. And I spend most of my time as an entrepreneur, as majority owner, founder, CEO of a company called Refer Me IQ, because along that way, I learned the power of building a referral-based business.
It's huge.
And training was kind of the way to do it back in our day.
Yep.
When you trained a lot of people to do it, it's just hard because it's a very behavioral task.
Yes.
It
Yes.
requires people to have the right mindset, have a way to ask at the right time,
Yep.
and then track and get conversion. So I said, probably 7 years ago, has anybody built a technology solution to make all that easier? Nobody had. So I founded a company that's now called Refer Me IQ, that takes the key behaviors, automates it, and from there makes it much easier for somebody to have a base system that they can use to become more referable, generate referrals, and convert them. So that's one thing I do. And then the other thing I do is what I've always done, which is in the M&A space. I've always been trying to help advisors build businesses, but myself and 3 partners that I worked with for 25 plus years that I would go to war with.
Nice.
We formed a company called JPTD Partners, where we have a private equity consulting firm, because we've been all around the block. We have 100 years of experience helping successful advisory practices and businesses find a market for themselves, because most of these practices today design themselves to play for revenue and income,
Yep.
but not valuation.
Yep.
So we've coached them for years how to play for valuation, but now they're all kind of at the last third of their career, and they want to de-risk and sell a portion of their business. So we help them to do that. So that's kind of my story. I'll stop there, but I'll just say one more thing along the way. Through, there's a lot more to it than what I said. One of the big deals in my life was more of a discovery aftermath, and I think I shared this with you, where my whole life I've had this kind of magnetic pull
Hmm.
to like, why am I here? And
Yep.
and somehow the answer always is, you've got a real chance here to make a difference.
Yep.
You've gotten some pretty good cards in your hands. You got the good parents for the draw. You're brought up in successful environments and cultures. You need to make the most of this. But the answer shifted from make the most of it for me to make the most of it for others.
Be of service. Yep.
And that was kind of going from the early stage of being a warrior, high achiever, A player, with some arrogance associated with
For
it,
sure.
to then like this
Hubris.
middle stage of like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's not what it's all about, dude. It's about now you're a parent. You've got three fantastic kids. I'm so blessed to have a wife that I met when I was 24, early in my career.
Wow.
And we've been married 32 years. We've known each other 38 years.
Wow.
We have three amazing kids. They're all adults now, two of which live in the area. The other is in a great place out in Utah, so we can visit. So that was part of it, but they were the greatest instructors to me,
No question.
along with life, to kind of say, okay, part one, you're this arrogant, you got to put some points up in the board guy and make things happen. I didn't hurt anybody. I helped a lot of people while I was doing that.
Yep.
So I did no harm and I did a lot of good, but it was mostly kind of feeling like I'm doing it for me because I got to establish myself, not knowing that the only reason I was doing that had nothing to do with me. It was for my family. It was to put some chips on the board, to build a foundation. Met Janine, had the kids. And then from there, I kind of moved into phase two, which is, what's this really all about?
Yep.
And it's about servitude. It's about making a difference. And as soon as I did that, that's when this one life moment hit me. And that was that I learned kind of in my 20s and 30s that when I was not even 1 year old and we lived back in Columbus, my dad, we used to go back and forth to the family in New York over the holidays where they grew up. And we were supposed to fly this trip. Some trips we flew, some trips we drove. We were supposed to fly. The last second, my dad had kind of this gut thing, too many presents kind of thing. And he decided to have us drive. Well, that was December of 1960. And the plane that we were on in TWA had a midair collision with some other plane, and everybody died on both flights.
No way.
And that plane we were supposed to be on. And so, as I
Wow.
learned this story, and my dad tells the story, I wish he was here to continue to tell it.
Mm.
It was really moving to me because it put it all together. It was kind of like it's not something you go through and have to respond to because I was too young, but it's something that happened that that afterwards started to make me feel like that's what this is about. I'm not supposed to be here. I've got this
Mm.
second chance, and call it God, call it the universe.
Both.
Something has put me here. So what that led to was just my own mantra that quickly developed, and that is, hey, if I'm here from point A to point B, I do believe in life after death, but who the heck knows? So I'm like, point A to point B, I have got to just optimize this thing.
Yep.
And what I've got to do is I've got to be the best me for me so that I can be the best me for you and for your audience, for others. I've got to find a way to make a difference. And that's simply what I'm all about. And so what I'm always doing is asking myself, how do I optimize health? How do I optimize other people's health?
Yep.
How do I make a difference? So it all breaks down to just my simple mantra of every day saying, today, did I live? Did I love? Did I learn? And did I matter? And in the days when I do more of those four things, I feel really good. In days where I miss some of those things, I try to improve the next day. And that kind of goes across everything that I do. So I'll shut up. That's kind of the quick
No, it's beautiful
story.
Thank you for the share. Thank you for the vulnerability in terms of just some of the parts of your story, and vulnerability is courage in action, I believe. And so it's just it's a beautiful, I love hearing your story and your journey, and there's a beautiful connection. So anytime I hear you speak, it's beautiful to hear. And now being able to share that with listeners and viewers is going to be really cool. But so as far as you talk about optimization and being of service, and there's so much to unpack there. What was there an impetus in these seasons of life where something just really struck you and said, it's time to maybe not be so, not that you were self-centered, but instead of focusing on the I, focus on the collective, focus on the we? Was there an aha moment, in this transition, or was it just a progression, like you said, through your 20s and 30s, where essentially you're like, you know what, I need to change? And then we could talk about the optimization stuff.
Yeah, I think the journey, if I were to be as accurate as I could, there wasn't any one event. It was almost like growing a giant oak tree over 100 years, where it was like the seed was there early. The seed was there, for example. I was successful as a financial advisor. I got my CFP. I served a lot of the small business, Italian community that you would know in the North End.
He's one of
Um,
us.
yeah, I think of this one guy, Warren. Warren would come in my office and he'd take a 352 Magnum and he'd put it on the table. Goes, "You take good care of me,
Or
you don't ever
else
see this." And I'm
you should have
like,
took the gun and be like, what are you gonna do now, Warren?
yeah, yeah. Back then I'm like green behind wet behind the
Uh-huh.
ears and green. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, Warren, I'll
Yeah.
make sure I do the right thing for you, dude. And I did, and he referred a lot of people to me. But I was really successful as an advisor. But I said to myself back then, all right, I can help 300 of my clients, and that's great, and I
Yep.
could profoundly influence their life, or I can go into a leadership role, build an organization within an organization, and from there help 300 people times 10,
Yep.
times 100, times 1,000, times 10,000.
Yep.
So I said, if I really want to make a difference, so business wise, I guess if I were to break it down, there probably were two catalysts. One was my decision to be a leader and
Yep.
to lead others, and understanding that that really is all about, at least the ones that are effective, it is about influence and servitude, and leverage.
Yep.
And how do you help the greater good and become part of something special, dynamic, amazing, because of some of your influence. And so that decision made me a student of leadership, and that taught me and exposed me to some of the best and the worst out there that were doing that.
Talk about those. Talk about some of your examples, like the great examples and then the good examples of a bad example. Like who are some of these people that you saw and kind of learned from and learned what not to do as well?
Sure, yeah, I'll give one good for each. So on the good side, I was very fortunate that early on in my career back in IDS, there were some fantastic leaders there. One of which was a guy named Doug Lennox, who wrote a book called The Simple Genius You. I've
Mm.
got it right on my shelf, and a number of, and he had this whole concept of determining what's called your witty whiffy, and that is the concept is, what do you want for yourself,
Yep.
and being really clear on your values, being very clear to design goals and things that you must do to achieve those goals within those values. And really, it was about living in alignment and on purpose,
Yep.
where you match up the ideal you to the real you, and those two match because you're clear on your values, your beliefs, and your purpose. And so, I mean, here I am, literally 3 months into my career there, and I go to a live workshop with him, and I immediately connected. I'm like, this is it. This is kind of the meaning of life. It's like, gosh, we got to get clear on who we are and our values and our, picture a movie of yourself, of the ideal self, match it up against the reality of who you are. And just every decision in life becomes easy. It's, what would that person in the movie be thinking and doing now versus what am I doing?
Yep.
And then you just do that often. And then, you kind of fake it till you make it, not faking other people out. But all you do for years is everything you ask
It's
yourself,
like this. Fake it till you make it. Right here.
exactly, exactly. Mindset is everything. It's the whole deal. So then all of a sudden it's like, what happens is the movie became my life. And then it's like, well, what's the next movie? And then what's the next movie? So Doug was so influenceable, and we were really fortunate because leadership back then was super highly valued,
Oh yeah.
Jesse, to the point that there was so much education, speakers, everything from the Ziglers of life and
Oh yeah.
Dennis Waitley and and Tony Robbins.
Hmm.
It was like drinking from a fire hose. We all had cassette tapes, cassettes,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
not 8 tracks, dude, but
Yeah.
cassettes. You know,
The next iteration of technology
next
from 8 track
iteration,
to
not CDs or not
yeah.
but cassettes. And we would listen. So, and because we did all our sales calls in the field,
Yep.
so when I led, we'd be out for a 6 o'clock appointment at night, an 8 o'clock appointment at night, and back and forth. We'd either debrief or role play or listen to tapes. So I got exposed to not just people internal there and American Express and people like Ken Chenault and Harvey Golub and people that were just the best of the best that I got to know that I could then see what it looked like. So a lot of great leaders that I
Yep.
read about, heard, bear witness to, led me. But also the other side was true. There were people that led organizations in our organization back then that would teach us all the worst things to do. I had a manager once, for example, that lived near me in Boston, near my apartment. I won't go through the graphic.
Where in Boston did you live? Like, what was your town that you lived in?
All in Back Bay.
Oh, Back
So
Bay. Okay.
Beacon Street, Com Ave,
Yep.
owned a condo up at Kenmore Square, owned one on the corner of Mass Ave and Com Ave with
Oh
my
yeah.
wife. So yeah, all kind of Back Bay-ish. So, to your point, I used to walk from Back Bay down through the Commons to State Street to go to Filene's basement to go
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
And or go up the block to Brookline to work at one of the restaurants up there.
Yep.
But yeah, so this particular time we had a meeting for our district. I was kind of the top guy in the district, but I wasn't the manager of the district at the time. Long story short, he didn't show up, and
Hmm.
so I had to run the meeting, and then I went back and I knocked on his door to his apartment, and somebody was passed out on his couch. There were some things that were not so great all around.
Oh.
I had to wake him up, and and he was a great guy, and in some ways a great leader, but he just did some things that kind of would derail anybody.
Yep.
And I'm sure that was a lesson for him as much as it was for me because he went on to great success after that. But
Good.
there are
Good.
things like that that happened that told me that somebody can come back from really dumb choices, which he
Yep.
did.
Yeah. I'm living
Second,
proof.
yeah, oh yeah, gosh, we all are, right? I mean, if, the fact that we're still alive is
Uh-huh.
just
I don't
just
even know how, but I am.
I know. I look back to some of the choices I made, even on my 62 MGA,
Yeah.
that I'm still alive to tell about it. It's
Getting up there in
amazing.
the mid 100s in that car, maybe.
Yeah. And
Racing,
that was
all
just
that.
around 90-degree turns, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think leadership was one thing, Jesse, and then the other was marriage and having kids and being a father.
Yep.
Because you simply can't be a parent and be selfish.
And if you are,
doesn't-
that's like narcissism, right? That's like the
it is
definition.
narcissism and leads to immediately you get feedback that you can't do that.
Yep.
And so I learned real quickly. My wife is the most unselfish person that I know. So she was
Beautiful.
one instructor. The kids were the other, just seeing the feedback when if you prioritize anything other, a great example, I had a lot of friends that would play golf every weekend. And that was a source of aggravation from my mom when I grew up because my dad would work all week long in New York. He'd come back, he'd play golf on Saturday, and my mom didn't like that, and
Yep.
so that created a little bit of conflict. And I watched that. So as a dad myself, I belonged to at the time a country club, but I would never play golf on Saturdays. Always that was time with kids, no matter
Yep.
what. Even if I got a great offer, I just wouldn't do it. I'd find time to play business golf during the week. So those were kind of the two things that led me into, hey, this is about giving. This is about being there for people. And then, the third phase of it, after that was, I don't know what you'd call it. There's a lot of words for it. I don't, feel I stay very humble around this because there's way more that I don't know that I know,
Yep.
and the older I get, the more there is that I don't know. So, but I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to understand that there's this place where we can stay in the zone, be our authentic self, get clear on our gifts, leverage those, and build a community of people around you of really smart, great humans that you can learn from, make a difference with. And that in the end, I love mentoring, I love building teams, I love doing things in the community where I can make a difference. But Pareto's law said you can't do
Mhm.
all those things. You just got
Nope.
to choose. So I'm always trying, coming back to the optimization, to say, in this arena, what are like the three things?
Yep.
That if there's 10, what are the three things that I can take the crosshairs of my passions and gifts, and make a difference in the lives of a person or a group of people? And
Yep.
that's now kind of what I do. And I've even learned with networking, the whole idea of going to get something doesn't work. You have
It's
to
value
go,
first. Add value first. Yep.
add value, and then whatever happens, happens. Sometimes nothing
Agreed.
happens, and I'm okay with that because it comes back in different ways. But I've had to learn that. I've had to evolve and learn that. So so we divide our time between Midtown high rise life. We have a lake house an hour north. That's kind of our base of operations to do all that we do.
Beautiful.
We spend a lot of time with friends and family, but my life is balanced, where I've got the business, both of them where we want it to be, family time, alone time,
Yep.
Janine time, friend
You time
time.
too. Yeah. Talking about optimization, there's not to
Yeah,
cut you off. There's something that kept coming through for me that I want to share with you because and I'm
yeah.
sure you've seen this as a financial planner. We get into a lot of like trying to get to know our clients really well, and there's a lot of like assessments. And I don't know if you ever did this in your career, but like in my career of onboarding clients, I would do assessments. And there's different assessments out there for different things. I would use a 16 personalities, and I would use Colby Index to kind of give me some
Mm,
insight. But
sure.
something that puts both of those to shame in like the most profound way is called human design. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it and I participated in it and I've
So
taught it.
tell me about your experience with human design.
Well, it came from, Rhonda Duffy.
The name sounds familiar, actually. Yeah,
So she owns a big real estate conglomerate here in Atlanta. She does a great job. They're the kind of disruptors in the industry
beautiful.
that had very low commissions on what they did for years. Now more and more going towards it. But she's done very well. But she kind of started that whole idea of human design. That at a point in time when we're born, in essence, we get kind of wired to
Mm-hmm.
be a certain way.
Yep.
And it's almost like, if you look at it from a God perspective, it's like there's God up in heaven saying, gosh, I've got to find a way to get differentiation between all these people. How do I do it? Well, when you're born at this date, at this time, in this place, we're going to stamp you with this profile.
Yep.
And if you somehow unlock what that really means,
Wild.
life is going to be pretty good for you. If
Yep.
because you'll develop a set of principles that will define you. And so, yeah, so I've been through that. What she did, she had this course where you can spend $500 and she makes personal tapes, I think 10 of them for each part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and basically she says, Peter Velardi, meet Peter Velardi. And she went through it all. And my wife was really interested because she's into, astrology, and
Oh, hell yeah.
she gets that. And I've had a lot of experience with that. I actually dated two women whose moms were so-called witches,
Oh, yeah.
and were the tarot card people. And what's
Love
interesting,
it.
all the things they told me about me,
Mhm.
Rhonda told me about me,
Yep.
what the horoscopes say about me, what it says about my relationship with Janine. It's all pretty damn spot on.
Isn't that crazy?
So I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Because I was on the opposite side. Janine had she had a what do you call it? A psychic
Yep.
back in Rhode Island, that she would record the sessions before she even met me. She knew all about me
Not
before
wild.
Janine met me,
Yep.
because of what she said. I mean, this stuff is wild. So my point of view, just my point of view, is there's something true about all of that. There's
No
something
question.
real,
Yep.
about all of that. So that was one thing. And then the other thing that we're doing recently, which gets at human design, we do a lot of testing, blood
Yep.
testing,
Yep.
biohacking. We can talk about that for a while
Oh
in
yeah.
the conversation. But one of the things I told you we just did, and we're dying to get it back, we just signed up and got a DNA test from a company called My DNA Company. There's
Yep.
two firms that do it. This is one of the two. They're both excellent. You used Viome, which is also great. Viome is a point in time. This is kind of your playbook. This is kind of like
Nice.
this is supposed to be. Well, we'll
I have
see.
so much I want to share with you. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait too. So this is part two. We should get this back. This is supposed to be like your instruction book.
Love it.
Here's the stuff about you that you probably don't know. Use it wisely to make good choices. It doesn't mean that these things are all going to happen. So yeah, we're really into it, and it solves something I've always wanted to solve in my mind, and that is, it can't be as hard as it feels. Life,
right.
It feels really hard a lot for a lot of people a lot of the time. But there is this plan, and whether the plan is human design that shows up in DNA, or the opposite, or
Yep.
if it's God's plan, the
Yep.
universe's plan, pick your label on it. I don't really care. But there is something to it that once you relax and allow that flow to take you, I'm just experiencing and observing in others, really good things happen.
Well, so there's so much to unpack there, and we're the reason why I'm kind of bringing this up is twofold. Something you said, and we're tapping into optimization, which is, you have to optimize yourself in all the ways, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, relationship wise, before you can be of service to people. And this is where we're going with this conversation, and to a degree is your journey of being of service and how other people can too. And human design, you alluded to something a couple minutes ago about you've always had a magnetism, and that was also drawing things into your life. But when I first heard that word, I was like, human design, I wonder if he's a generator, because I'm a generator too. And a generator is someone who can give off endless amounts of energy if they're lit up about what they're doing. And if you're not lit up about what you're doing, you're just like, you hate life. And it's like, but then you have so much energy you give off to other people. And it's about the knowing that you have, and shutting off your mind and listening to your gut and listening to your intuition and asking yes or no questions if you want to do something, and really being able to discern that. And human design is wildly profound and in so many ways. And there's this beautiful, we talked about this too. This is getting like a little bit into the ethereal and more of the world, but there's a consciousness evolution that's going on right now amongst a lot of people: health and wellness, spirituality, plant medicines. There's, biohacking, optimization. Human design is on the forefront of these conversations now too. And it's like people are getting tapped into this knowledge of how to be healthier, how to live better. And I think that, like you said, there's so many tools out there. It's just a matter of what calls to you, what you feel like you can use. And, getting into something else that was really cool. You were talking about the My DNA Company as a playbook for your life. This is a wild story. So I'm watching a TED Talk of a lady that goes by Blue, BLU. She is Aaron Rodgers' girlfriend. She is Aaron Rodgers' impetus for doing ayahuasca and changing his life and like all this crazy stuff. And yeah. And,
awesome.
and she was talking about how she started going deaf. And so she has this condition. She's only in maybe her mid 30s. She has this wonderful, gorgeous, bright, shining human being. Started going deaf, and all that comes with that. Like at 30 years old, you're not supposed to go deaf, and your whole world starts to implode. And she went on this beautiful, massive journey around the world. And she started doing all these interesting things, sitting with shamans and doing breath work and all these beautiful biohacky life things. And this book came across her table called The Gene Keys. Have you heard about this?
I have heard about this.
Brother, like
this is an awesome story.
I heard about the Gene Keys. And so for the Gene Keys, for people listening, there's 64, now 65 gene keys that are out there that you can control your body at a DNA and a cellular level and find your golden path. That's the goal. Like, what are you passionately driven to do in this life that is your zone of genius? So in the Gene Keys, it talks about everyone's a genius, maybe not IQ genius, but everybody has a genius to them. Right. And finding your genius as part of your soul's purpose so that you can be of service at your most great capacity for other people. And when she started talking about Gene Keys in her TED Talk, I'll send her the TED Talk. I'm getting chills right now talking about it, but like I started crying, number one. And I've learned to listen to my soul's intuition. And I was like, you have to read Gene Keys immediately. So I got audio, I got Audible, I have Audible, I got the book on Audible. It's a 38-hour book. It's friggin' wild. It's a manuscript on how to do life. It's not just a read this, it's a choose your own adventure. It's wild. And for 2 hours, I'm sitting there taking notes, learning, replaying. It's so beautiful. And then all of a sudden I'm writing in this book, and this book is it's a notebook from my company I work for called I Solved. And I'm sitting there and I see deer, which very powerful form of nature, just standing in front of me in my backyard. And then I looked at the word I solved, and I was like, I solved me. Like, I solved this. This book will help me solve me, because we're always on that search of who we are, the creation, like all these things. So Gene Keys has come through, and again, if you could speak to this, I don't know if you said if you've had experience with it. Have you read it or heard of Gene Keys?
No. But I'm listening right now to Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think he gets to this, but he hasn't yet. But I heard another podcast with Aaron Rodgers where he spoke about what she went through.
Yep.
And just touched on this. But I wrote it down. I'm going to get it.
Brother, get it.
I'll check out the TED Talk. I'll check out the book.
Let's compare notes on the Gene Keys.
Yeah. Man. No, I'd love to. And it's like, it's one of those things where when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
And it's like, you have to be ready for these things. A lot of people discount this kind of discussion as being woo-woo, as being out there, but you start to see that there's way more to this game than just kind of what we thought. Way more to it. And whether it's going back to Einstein and some of what he taught us, to human design.
Oh yeah.
DNA, there's way more to it, that it doesn't have to be this hard, and it can be way more inspiring life in all aspects if you just open yourself up to that third bucket. Like, there's one bucket of things we know that we know. There's another bucket of things that we know we don't know, and that's where 90% of our time gets played.
Yep.
The best bucket, though, is the third one, which is the things we don't know, we don't know.
Yes.
And when people are open to that, that's when things really start to get fun.
Brother, some of the most profound philosophers, creators, business people, human beings have all played with these modalities, whether it's breath work, meditation, if it's body movement, if it's static dance, if it's all the way to plant medicines, which I work with every few months. There are these profound truths that come from them. And we're starting to tap back into these as a society, where people are talking about these things more. People are utilizing these things more. And if you go back to like thinking about Socrates and Plato and some of these great philosophers, a lot of them did work with like even plant medicines. They had certain elixirs that they used to expand their mind. And I'll tell you specifically, when I've used plant medicines, things from ayahuasca to psilocybin and everything in between, it is absolutely a divine technology. There's no question. And we're starting to see the chasm shortened of, we've been led to believe for many reasons that, religion and science are two different things. And they should be, if you believe in science, you don't believe in God. And if you believe in religion, you don't believe in science. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. The two are absolutely coming together, because they should have never been separated.
It's a false choice, right?
No question. No question. So these kinds of conversations are really interesting, because you and I are illuminating each other with our experiences, but we're also sharing these like snippets with people. But then there's so many people out there. Like, again, you start seeing these who we put on a pedestal, football players or celebrities. And once they start doing these types of things, other people can hear about the journey as well. Then they go on their own journey. So it's funny that you're listening to that specific podcast right now with Aaron Rodgers, because it's in the social consciousness now. It's like the 80-second chimp theory, where basically after you tell the 80-second chimp a story, like they all understand the same consciousness. It just becomes like unity consciousness, which is wild. It's what we're going through right now.
Yeah, that's so fascinating in so many ways. A few things I want to pick up on what you said. So first thing is this whole kind of is human consciousness going up or down?
Mm-hmm.
And the media would have you believe that the world is going to hell in a handbag.
Yep.
But really just the opposite has happened. And in so many ways across the board. We can, get into a much more deep conversation, but this was predicted in all the earlier books that I've read.
Yep.
For example, I'm sure you read The Power of Now.
I have.
And that's all about how do you stay present all the answers are within us,
Yes.
that we are wired human design wise to learn about us and then go out and apply it.
Yep.
But, the book talked a lot about that over the next 2 decades, human consciousness will be going up significantly.
Yep.
And at some point, the pendulum that we're seeing today is going to swing completely back the other way, where there's going to be a connectiveness and a lack of divisiveness
Yes.
that we see so much today. And the media takes the vocal minority and tries to blow it up to make us all think that everybody
That's right.
feels that way, and we don't.
Nope.
Because there's a growing group like you and I, and it's not just older guys like me, it's young guys like you. It's like my kids in their 20s and 30s. It's that generation is starting to see it
Yep.
way earlier than I saw it,
Then me
and
too,
probably
right?
earlier than you saw it. Where
Yeah.
there's more to this game, and that we can't believe what we read and what we hear, and that the answers are all out there. They're all inside of us, and they're all in the universe. We just have to have a little bit of faith that if we open our minds to play in that bucket of things we know we don't know, and let those things come to us naturally at the right time, things are going to be okay.
We are, brother. That's absolutely true and powerful. And we are experiencing this shift where we are facing darkness and heavy times because it's pushing us into the light and it's pushing us into the power that we so working with plant medicines over the years, I've sat and I've
Mm,
received a clear, profound message that we are healers, we are creators, and we are powerful. And taking that innate wisdom that we have and claiming it and stepping back into it, like we are sovereign beings. We don't need media, big pharma, big corporations, and again, we don't have to get too deep into the weeds there, but we do have the power, and we do have the power to heal ourselves. We do have the power to create things. We do have the power to love and to be loved. And these stories and these journeys that are happening for a reason. And I do believe personally, I believe in God, I believe in the universe, I believe it's all kind of one thing. And I believe that we chose here to be here during this time for a specific reason. And we came
mm.
here during a really strange time. We don't really have a great war, so to speak, but we have a great war within ourselves and a great war within society and consciousness. And I do believe we're here to, at least at some level, in this removing ego, leave some breadcrumbs for those that come next of how to evolve through. And I will say this: I was talking about this with Lauren last night. Being a dad, like you said, when you said this, I couldn't resonate anymore. Being a dad, our children are our best teachers. They've taught me how to be more selfless. They've taught me how to be more present, because as kids, they're like the most present beings. You look at a kid that's
Incredible.
6, 8, 9, 10 years old, what they're doing is the only thing in the world that exists in that moment. And I'm like, damn, that's fucking powerful. Talk
Yeah.
about being in the flow. Talk about being in the moment. Talking about being powerfully present, because if you're not present and you live in the past of something that you did wrong, and you're trying to live in the future of something you want to like manifest, you create anxiety and you're not living in the present moment. And so all these tools and things they've taught us, it's just a powerful reminder that, like, I feel like what the work that we're doing, you, myself, the world as a whole, we are being taught how to be better humans. But at the same time, I feel like we're giving these tools back. And part of this conversation with Lauren was, we need more elders. We need more people that are have been through these initiations. And I'm not talking about Western initiations like getting a driver's license, being able to drink when you're 21. Like, these aren't initiations. What I mean by initiations are rite of passages. And this could be anything from, breath work to sitting in a little, sweat lodge, to all these different things where you have to be tested and it brings you together. And now you have this information you didn't have before. And these things, I think, are happening at scale. And like you said, they would lead us to believe that they're not. But like, people like you and I are talking about this stuff all the time. And I think that we're in this beautiful moment of choice where we choose, whether you believe in the great reset where the world's out to get us and we're going to be us versus them, or whether you believe in the great change where we're going to, and this is the Gene Key speaking again, the great change. We're in this moment in time of, we're going to evolve. And this has always been my mindset and my belief. So it's nice to hear that there's other people at mass that feel the same way.
Yeah, and we're not alone. There's a lot of people in a lot of roles. I love the concept of elders, and I agree with you on everything you've said. I share all of those beliefs, not even just some, but all. The elders one is interesting because I don't know yet if we need more elders or if we need people to suspend themselves from their egos
Yep.
to become those elders. In other words, it's not that we need more people. We just need more people within the people that we have to understand that they've got gifts that we need to pass on to other generations.
No question.
And that's a big reason why we're here. Like, I feel this need to teach. I feel this need to pass on legacy. I feel this need, this, like, it's almost feels to me like this exciting moral obligation where it's like somehow I know stuff, I've experienced stuff, I've done stuff that wasn't for me. It was because I'm supposed to be making sure these others go through their own experience and journey and hardships. There's no substitution for that. Taking action, all that has to happen. But we need to pass on. Like today, for example, we sit around. We were up at the lake house and we had another really close group of friends in that are really like our family. And the 89-year-old grandmother comes with us once a year, and she tells stories about Italy, just like my grandparents did, and
Beautiful.
my parents did. And my kids they love that. So one of my sons was there, and he was listening to it, and that was the most valuable part of the weekend at the lake was
Wow.
hearing these stories, and then me telling some stories about my grandparents, and so it's almost like in that is the beauty, in that are the lessons.
Yep.
But there's this massive fear that because of what's happened with COVID, because of changing values, changing family structures, that there's a wall that is going to prevent some of that from getting to these
Mm,
generations.
mm.
If that's true or if it's not true, doesn't matter. It just heightens to me my moral obligation of what I control and influence to make sure that some of these things get in their hands. So, my kids always joke, there's a whole thing of dad jokes, of course, but they joke also because I'm a voracious, ferocious reader. I read probably 10 different pubs every day,
Wow.
from Kiplinger to the Wall Street Journal to all forms of Apple News to get all points of views,
Good.
to Barron's to Bloomberg, which I disagree with half of what is in it. But that doesn't matter. I get it all. And then
Yep.
what I do all the time with my kids, I've learned to calm down a little bit, is I'll share those things with them. So here's an article on this, or and just to make sure that if something matters that I want them to know, I'll pass it on to my circle because again, I want no credit for it at all. I just want them to get access to kind of Pareto's law of all the noise, what really matters,
Yep.
because that's what they're going to start to align themselves to. So that was one thing. The other thing I wanted to touch on, we have something big in common that I didn't even know we had in common. And it's deer specifically. So deer in my life have always played the role as being the angel, being the mentor.
Wow.
So and I could tell you stories going back to Westport, but where it's most crisp in my mind is when I was in Rhode Island. I ran the Rhode Island division for Ameriprise, American Express at the time, and we lived for 3 years. And I was a running like maniac. I ran every day,
Same.
and on these runs, it was always a problem-solving mission. It's
Yeah.
always some kind of problem.
Uh-huh.
I would run. I'd ask the question, beginning of my run. By the end, I had the answer. And in
So
between,
fucking wild.
what would always happen, Jesse, is right at this critical point where I'm like, either critical, my most distress or anxiety about the problem, a deer would show up out
Yeah.
of the woods.
Deer medicine. It's a thing.
Deer medicine. And this theme went on through my entire life. We have deer up at the lake house a lot. And I remember meditating on problems and solutions. Deer would always show up and just sit there and stare at me like, hey, dude, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the answer always came through some type of a dialogue. It sounds really weird,
Not at all.
but they call them the angel, call them a mentor, call them a conduit
Yep.
to the next place, whatever it is. It's fascinating that I fish a lot, but I don't hunt. And that's why I could not ever kill a deer,
Yeah.
because they play kind of that role in my life. I have complete respect for all those that do, and certainly those that do it for food as well. But
Yes.
but I also respect hunters and why they do it for sport, and they more than anything have respect for the deer. So I don't judge any of that, but for me, it's like these deer play this role. We got families of them now up at the lake where they come in our backyard, and pretty much every day we're interacting. In some cases, 5, 10 feet away. Janine watched two of them be born in our front
Wow.
yard, which
Wow.
was amazing. Videotaped it. So it's like deer have this kind of
Hmm.
weird special role in our life, and I was happy to hear it does in yours as well.
Well, there was led a men's retreat a couple of years ago to North Georgia. There was only about 5 of us, and we were working with breath work and cold plunging and psilocybin mushrooms. And at the end of one of our journeys on one of the days, we're sitting on this it's a 2-level kind of boat dock where people would have like kayaks in their boats, but it was in the winter, so it was just the kayaks that were on like the landing,
Mhm.
so to speak. And like we were up on the second level where you walk up the stairs, and the sun, it was called Sunset Cove up in Gainesville, the place that we rented out. And
Oh yeah, yeah, I
the
know
the
well.
the sunlight literally was like shining on us, and then behind us it was shining on a deer, and then there was like a hawk that flew by and a fish that jumped out of the water at the same time. We are like, if this isn't Mother Nature talking to us that we're kind of like in the right place at the right time, we don't know what is. And that's what I think it is. I think, specifically from my journey over the years, I've really become attuned and accustomed to nature.
Hmm.
And that's just a sign from nature, from God, from universe, from Gaia, all these things saying, you're in the right place. And to have perspective, to have the mindset and the wherewithal and the awareness to appreciate that and to say, thank you for this. And it makes you feel a certain way. And I don't know if you've heard, but like this other piece, but when you're in nature, there's a certain frequency to nature, and it's a healing frequency. And so much like you was big into running at one point, I'm actually kind of getting the call to go back to it. My son, he's running 5Ks. He's doing 7 30-minute miles. He's coming in first in his races. He's 8. He's a friggin'
Hmm.
savage. He's David Goggins incarnate,
Nice,
and I
David
fucking love it. And
Goggins,
it's beautiful to see
forty
that. And right
percent,
now,
baby.
he's the fastest guy in the house, and I hate it. Like in terms of like for 5K, I'll still smoke him in a sprint and for like a mile, but like in the 5K, he's faster than me right now, which is shitty because I was the fastest guy. But no, it's great. But anyway, so thinking about this idea of running, and for me, when my dad passed away in 2018, that's when I started running. And I went from hating running, even though I played sports my whole life. When you play sports, you run, but you don't really run. You don't run for distance. Like I didn't anyway. So I didn't do
Mm.
track. I didn't do
Oh,
cross
no.
country. I played football, baseball, and basketball. And a lot of that is standing
Dang.
around if you're playing baseball and you're doing little sprints if you need to. And then football, they used to make us run a little bit, but you're not really running for distance, at least where when I was trained. So when I started running, I sucked at it. I couldn't even run 2 miles without stopping. And I got into it really heavy, and it became a therapeutic form of like meditation. And go out there, like you said, with the problem, you get the answer when you come back. You see nature while you're out there. And it's really profound to know that these things exist. And one last piece about animal science. So everybody kind of has an affinity once they open up to it to different things, deer, but also something that's been coming across for me the last couple of years is frogs. And it's really
Mhm.
interesting because I've actually been working with frog medicine. And one of the frog medicines I worked with down in Tulum was bufo. It's a bufo toad. And the bufo toad, if you take the secretion off the back and you let it dry out, and it sounds like a crackhead, but if you smoke it, it's DMT. And DMT is the spirit
Mm.
molecule for those that are listening and haven't heard
Oh
this yet.
yeah.
DMT lives in your pineal gland. It also lives endogenously in your liver. And so when you die or when you do breath work, when you die but you come back, or when you do breath work, you're releasing endogenous DMT. So if you're doing Wim Hof holotropic breath work, you can get to a state of like plant medicine, altered states of consciousness with just your breath. And when you die, and people that have come back that say they've seen God, they have this epiphany, they've seen the white light, what they're saying is, and this is becoming more like profound and more like in the consciousness of like science and things like this, DMT is being released to help you pass on. And so these things like ayahuasca or the bufo toad have this thing in nature, DMT, that's in our body too. There's no mistake there. There's no mistake that we're a
Mm-mm.
part of nature. Nature's a part of us. And if we can use these tools, regardless of what you're into, you could profoundly change your life. So I'm glad you shared that because I've had some animal signs as well.
Yeah, I love that, and you're right. A lot of it is about understanding the tools we already have.
Yes.
We don't need a lot of new anything. Certainly, we could use tools to make things more effective and efficient, but all the tools for success in life we have within us or in the universe. We just have to have enough curiosity and openness and the ability to adapt enough to choose. It's all about choices, and I've said this my whole life that it's all about choices and consequences of choices. There's no good or bad. It's just about you make a choice. It's pure physics. It's each action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's just
Mhm.
understanding and then good decision making. Our life is simply where it is today, and an accumulation of all the choices and decisions we've made up to this point. If most of them have been pretty good, you've got a pretty good life. If most of them pretty bad, you got a pretty bad life. It's
Yep.
not complicated. What's complicated is about it is what do I do about it, and how do I stay open, and then what do I choose next in the moment, and what are some guiding principles that can help me make better decisions and better choices.
Mic drop, man. That's beautiful. Just a quality way to live life, and it's what you put in the universe, you're going to get back. Call it fate, karma, call it blind luck, whatever you're into. It's really
Hmm.
true. It's the more of what you put a lot more love into the world. Guess what you're going to get back? Love.
Yeah.
And it's just the universe is a mirror. It's a reflection of who we are. We are part of the universe, and so what we put, and we are mass. This is something that we're tapping into. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza talks
Hmm.
about, how to bring the future into the now through, like, really quantum mechanics. But really, it's intention setting. It's attaching a feeling to like you said, who's the person you want to become based on your values and your beliefs, but bringing that into the now. And once we learn these gene keys and these things to, we can architect the world in front of us in real time, and we're starting to do this in beautiful ways. And so just to kind of step off on this last question for you, what is it that you're looking forward to in your life, coming up here in the next few months? What are you working on? What do you want to plug, if anything? What's exciting in the world of Peter Velardi?
Yeah, well, everything, I guess, is the answer, but the short answer is growth of everything. Um, Growth of health optimization. I'm looking forward to not defying age because you can't,
Right.
but I am older than I probably look and sound. Um, Hopefully, at least that's what you
You're
get.
a total stud, dude. You look great.
Well, I don't know about that. I can't claim that. But
I'll claim it for you.
what I can't wait is, we learn something every day, literally,
Yep.
about how to increase our health span, our lifespan. So that's exciting to me. Is what is optimization in the future compared to the tools we have today? What myths can we dispel? What things can we learn? So really excited about kind of the future of health span, lifespan, all things biohacking, and what we learn and what we apply ourselves as a family to that,
Yep.
and seeing what works and what doesn't work for us. So that's exciting. Business wise, I'm really excited about both businesses. I've got two of my three kids, my two sons, with me full time, helping me build with Far Army IQ with a great team of another 10 people. And that has so much potential to solve a big problem. Every business wants to be 100% referral based, high growth business, but and everybody knows they should be doing it through referrals. And if they did that well, they wouldn't have to spend any money to do anything else.
Right.
And so if I can help people have a better life because they do that instead of chasing a bunch of leads, if you're an insurance agent or a financial advisor or mortgage broker or CPA who hate doing marketing, if I can make their life easier so they can have a better quality life because they implement a good referral system, that's just one other way to make a difference. But scaling that is really fun. Working with my kids is really fun. Look forward to that. On my private equity business, couldn't be more excited about the future there. I've got three partners and that I would go to war with. We have a blast together. We've got collective 100 years of experience
Wow.
in doing what we do. We've got a unique value prop. It's expanded. I mean, we triple what we do each year doing this, if not more.
Wow.
And there's a huge demand for what we do. And again, we're just helping the same thousands of advisors that we help build a career now try to find the right way to de-risk and find the right partner for the last third of their career, but do it in a way where they can put a bunch of money in their pocket and de-risk. So that's really fun. And then lastly, I'm looking forward to more of what we love to do between Janine and I, which is travel, connect with friends. It's been fun. We bought this high rise condo in December. It's a new community, so we meet new people just about every week.
That's
So
awesome.
it's a new community. So we're looking forward to our life together. I've got maybe 3 to 5 more years of a big push with business. I tried to retire. I could have. When I left Ameriprise, I was bored within 6 months. So
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know that I'll ever stop doing something meaningful, but because work is now a choice. But I would like to get my two things down to maybe one. So scaling both companies to have that choice, which one or both? Do I have somebody run one? So I'm looking forward to the next 3 years of kind of being on this last more intense works or kind of sprint, and then doing more with traveling and other things. So, it's about it. It's just, I wake up each day pinching myself, being grateful, and at the same time, making sure that I
Mm.
can live, love, learn, and matter today, this day, because that's all we have.
Brother, that's it. That's the way to close it out, man. Attitude of gratitude, being present. I mean, those two tools right there, you don't need anything else. If you're grateful and if you can be present, that's a life well lived, brother. So, first and foremost, I'm very grateful for you and being in my life as a friend, as someone that I'm excited to see where our journey leads, the things that we potentially co create together or just enjoy together. I'm excited to get this out to the listeners and the viewers so they can experience you and your experience and your wisdom and just a badass conversation between two dudes. So, just from the first person that heard this episode, and witnessed you. Thank you so much for being you, brother.
Hey, great to be here. Great to chat with you. Such a great connection we have. Value the friendship, value the fact you wanted to even have me on as a guest, and wish you and your audience, of course, only the best ahead.
Thanks, brother.